Sit!
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerd Fantasy Football Podcast, Nerd Herd Edition. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for listening. We're all good and clear. We finally did it. It took to week 10, and there was no major catastrophe outside of Monday Night Football, which is still to occur. Fingers crossed. And we got a couple of things to go through here, but for overall, everybody should be pretty hunky-dory going into 11. You might not be happy with the production you're getting from some of these turd fergs, but overall, health-wise, they will be on the field, allegedly.
Most of them are available. Yep. So let's just dive right into it. It's going to be a quick show, so we might as well just go right at it. I did want to mention Trevor Lawrence. I know we didn't mention him on last week's show, and then an injury popped up. He ended up missing the game this past week with a shoulder injury. It's his non-throwing shoulder, and it sounds like he's continuing to weigh options for the future. So who knows if that means surgery or whatnot. Obviously, Jacksonville not looking great this season anyway. This one smells like a team that's going to be completely overhauling that coaching staff and all that good stuff.
Yep.
Mac Jones was the guy that came in and looked like Mac Jones. Completed 14 of 22 passes, 111 yards and 2 interceptions. Basically, anyone that was relying on the quarterback situation there kind of tanked and didn't look great. The best output there was Evan Ingram with 10 points on 6 receptions, 40 yards. Other than that, everyone kind of took a nosedive there.
Oh yeah, I know. I've got some Jacksonville shares flown around my dynasty leagues, and yeah, very unimpressive. And for Trevor Lawrence to miss time, that guy's a fighter, man. He'll fight through, his leg bending the wrong way. But yeah, signs are like they're really considering IR for him as well. So huge red flag. Definitely, just obviously if Trevor Lawrence goes down, dude, I'm in a league where it's super flex. My quarterbacks are JJ McCarthy, Trevor Lawrence, and Dak Prescott. So Arrivederci season. No doubt. Yeah, it's going to affect, obviously, saw with Mac Jones. It's going to hurt Brian Thomas. It's going to hurt, Gabe Davis, if that's possible. Even Evan Ingram took a little bit of a blunt force there. Travis Etienne wasn't overly effective there. So just an overall, probably outside of Evan Ingram, possibly the running game, it might just be, hey, time to steer clear of this situation until further notice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Another quarterback that I wanted to mention that was on last week's show, but we didn't know kind of the severity of it is Dak Prescott. It sounds like he's getting another kind of second opinion here on the hamstring injury, but that sounds like a pretty bad hamstring injury that's going to require surgery. Either way, I think he's lost, dude. Yeah, he's lost for the season regardless, whether or not he undergoes surgery or not. So it's going to be the Cooper Rush and possibly Trey Lance. They're throwing around that. At this point, why not? Cooper Rush.
Yeah, do you see Cooper Rush playing football?
Yeah, you're not getting anything from Cooper Rush. You might as well see if you can get something from Trey Lance. That's a nightmare. That's another one of those places that, the coach has lost the locker room. Michael Parsons is coming out and saying stuff like, I feel bad for all these veterans and guys that put in more time than our coach. Which is wow.
I read that quote this morning, and I was like, well, I hope you guys have a good time under Bill Belichick, because that'll be the new coach of the Dallas Cowboys in 2025, if you ask me. So yeah, it's Arrivederci McCarthy. Once your players are throwing you under the bus, you are a dead man walking.
I don't understand how they even continue with him going forward. It sounds like Jerry Jones is stubbornly going to do that, but that's going to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, Jones historically doesn't like to fire coaches in season. Like he likes to let them just go head up. And honestly, unless you're making a playoff run, or the head coach is really detrimental to the locker room, there's really not a lot of honestly, I feel like there could be more down to doing that, because then I know you get some of that rejuvenation to win games, which honestly at that point you don't want to do because you want the higher draft pick. But then you can end up in these situations where the Browns were in it with Freddie Kitchens, who was an abysmal coach, right? You get to spark, and all of a sudden you win some games. This is because of this guy. We saw it with the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. Not saying Antonio Pierce is a head coach, but like certainly does look like a great head coach this this year as well.
Yes,
so like
I agree.
Sometimes that could even set you back more just by doing that mid-season thing. And if anything good happens, you kind of pigeonhole yourself to this coach who might not be the best coach for you or your organization. So I'd be much more like amped to like just keep going with it going, or like whatever interim coach you get, like insert like the worst option possible so you can find a savior. I know it sounds crazy to say, but I mean, really, like it can really set your team back another year. And then you go from, wow, the 2024 season's bad to like, now the 2025 season's bad and it's not even 2025 yet. Right. And which is going to take you all the way into 2026. So like 2 years away from seeing of like even where your football stands. And nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants the 2 year thing. They want to get a taste of like what Washington's going on, right? You get that young quarterback in, new head coach, and like everything's hunky dory. You're like, is it Dan Quinn? Maybe, or is it like most of the NFL where it boils down to like who is your quarterback? Which is funny. Like when we come down to like most of the stuff, you can say anything you want, but a lot of the times it really just comes down to like who is your quarterback and who is overseeing the offense calling plays. Like that's the biggest question mark at hand. So yeah, quarterback's going down out for the year. That was last week though, Matt. So you're really bringing a downturn, this happiness of, hey, everything's looking a little rosy in week 10.
I wanted to mention him because it's an injury show and we didn't know the severity and we didn't even touch on Trevor because we didn't know about it. So
correct.
Let's move on to some current stuff, and there's no more quarterbacks. Let's move on to the running backs. Miles Sanders carted off the field over there in Germany. It wasn't a great looking thing, a great looking injury. It was his foot/ankle. We don't exactly know what it is quite yet. I didn't see a replay of it or anything like that. But obviously Chuba Hubbard just signing that extension and Jonathan Brooks getting ready to come off IR. This is kind of going to end up being a kind of a non-factor for fantasy because Miles Sanders wasn't really doing much anyway. And I would expect Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard to just kind of take care of this the rest of the season either way. So
yeah, Chuba Hubbard, obviously since last week's show, he gets this extension. Yep. He's a long-term answer. Very confusion on what's going on there in Carolina, but hey, bad organizations do bad things. So you keep on doing you, Carolina. If you turn around, you got no quarterback money to pay around, so you can pay a running back on a 2-year deal. That's doing well. It's just weird that you invested a second-round pick in there, but you're right. And even Chuba Hubbard had that like left knee sprain. Like after the game, he came out and said, like, yeah, my knee like dislocates sometime. It's like, did you tell does the team know that before they gave you $33 million as well? So
now he feels comfortable. Now he feels comfortable after signing it. That thing kind of pops out of place.
I got some bad knees, bros. So, and you're right. But honestly, that gets me a little bit more like, okay, so I have a bye this week. So we'll see how it stands, which means we're going to see what Jonathan Brooks looks like in week 12, right? With him and Chuba Hubbard on the field. Knowing Chuba Hubbard's knees, could dislocate, which is going to really like mess with his ligaments over time, you assume. Get you even more optimistic than Jonathan Brooks. I know we were talking about it before too. I was talking about Garrett on his Thursday lunch, and that was right after the news broke. And I said, like just like Tyrone Tracy with Devin Singletary, like I would expect Jonathan Brooks to kind of, but at the same time, I don't want to say that because Chuba Hubbard has looked really good. Like, so it's like saying like Devin Singletary has been okay. Chuba Hubbard's been exceptional, and that's why he got the deal. And he definitely deserves a deal. It's just a rough spot because I really do like Jonathan Brooks, like his tape as well. So very interesting situation to monitor here. But running back's a fluid situation, man. Every day is a new day, new opportunity for you to seize the day.
For sure. And speaking of that, let's move on to the next person that's going to create an opportunity. Tank Bigsby had an ankle injury in this one, wasn't able to finish the game. Travis Etienne obviously has been getting more carries anyway, and then I would expect a guy like Ernest Johnston to kind of pick up the slack there. We didn't see it in this past game, but I would expect obviously if Bigsby misses any time, he's kind of been battling through this ankle for 3-4 weeks-ish, 2 or 3 weeks at least. So it might be time for them to kind of sit him. Obviously, it's that whole offense is in a hole, looks like crap. We talked about that when we covered Trevor Lawrence. So I don't know. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, against Jacksonville.
Yep.
Chernobyl.
Exactly. All right, moving on. Aaron Jones took a hit, and it was a chest injury. He looked like he was in some pain, but ultimately returned to the game. I don't know if there's anything to really see there. It seems like Cam Akers is maybe the next man up there.
Yeah, but I mean, again, Aaron Jones went back in. He was in there even at the end of the game.
Yep.
They're trying to help win and taking big hits going, and they were running up the middle, so he wasn't even as a decoy. So, which tells me that he should be good. Obviously, when you get ribs, you're banged up like that with your ribs. It's going to take a couple weeks for them to heal. They can wear a flak jacket as well. Minnesota's a contender. The fact that he went back in tells me enough where I'm not like really overly worried about it yet.
Exactly. I would imagine it's going to be a pain tolerance type of thing. And, there might be a couple shots during the game where he needs to come out and get a breather a little bit after or / injection.
That was all the running backs too, man. There was multiple scares, like Najee Harris went down with his right knee and his ankle. He came back in. Barkley hurt his wrist. He came back in. So like for the most part, like out of running backs, like there's multiple scares where like, oh, he's out. And like, it didn't even look good. Like Najee Harris didn't look good. He came back in. Aaron Jones did not look good at first. I thought Aaron Jones was done. He came back in. So,
yes. So
overall, the landscape looked like it came out pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of pretty good, last week was really bad at the wide receiver position. Nothing this week. Absolutely no wide receiver major issues. So we're just going to skip that completely and move on to the tight ends. This is where it's going to get a little personal here for you, Rich. Dalton Kincaid went down with a knee injury, tried to come back into the game with a brace on in the second half, basically wasn't able to do it. Dawson Knox is the guy that's going to be filling in if he misses any time. Have you heard anything today on this one? I have not.
No, but I watched it back. I mean, it looks like his knee gets driven into the turf there. Kind of like that, like the Puka Nacua injury. Didn't he strain his PCL? Something along those lines. So most of us got to pay attention, like practice coming up this week. They have a week 12 bye. So if it's anything minor, he would just sit this week, go through the bye, and then come back. But at the same time, like Dalton Kincaid's not giving you anything of notice. So as much as I love the player and I still love the upside, like he like somebody like we're in a league together and somebody's like, oh, you got Dalton Kincaid on your taxi squad. And I just wanted to be like, yeah, because I got way better tight ends producing them. Literally starting over him. Like this isn't a slight to tank. It's just like I wouldn't start him if I was trying to tank. He would definitely be my number one option to get in there. So for me, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it kills me to say it. My bold prediction was he's gonna come in here and catch 100 footballs, be tight end one. Couldn't be farthest thing from the truth. He's just like him. Again, he had another play this past game, man. We're like, it's consistent now. We're like, he was wide open. Probably could have walked himself into the end zone too. And Allen just overshoots him right off into the sideline, like nowhere even close to him. It's just, I don't know what's going on there, man. But it's
that connection. The connection between those two guys is not what it needs to be, or not what it was expected to be. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, and I expect him to follow, hopefully, then the typical tight end timeline of year 3, like that him and Allen finally get on the same page. We'll see how the receiving core looks. Obviously, they're in good hands with the running game. So I feel like Dalton Kincaid at this point is just definitely by the time he comes back week 13, it's a week before the regular season. There's nothing can happen, even come back off an injury, that would have you put Dalton Kincaid in your starting lineup with confidence to go get a title, right? Like there's other moves that you can make, whether it be in paying very little for a guy like Hunter Henry and just kind of, Kate Otten, if he's a possibility to get someone on those lines. Like you're really looking, if this was your this is your biggest deficit tight end, Dalton Kincaid is not the answer. And there's possibly like a veteran out there. Like, we'll see what happens with T. Higgins. Can Mike Gesicki, keep going there in Cincinnati? There should be some options that we inch closer. But if not, I'm sure you have some options on the bench that are just the same as Dalton Kincaid, which is going to give you mid-range tight end numbers. So you get no different than having tight end 7 on your roster compared to tight end 15. Like it's all viable at this point.
No doubt. Speaking of a guy that is viable, Sam LaPorta is another injury here. I mean, it's a shoulder sprain. It's not considered to be long-term type of thing. I think it came out that it was an AC joint. Same thing that CeeDee Lamb kind of played through this past week. So it's going to be, can he deal with the pain of it, and can he move the shoulder enough to lift his arms to make catches, which I'm sure he will be able to. I just wanted to mention it in case he doesn't practice or something this week.
The other thing I'll say about LaPorta too is like it was encouraging that he was like involved and looked pretty good with Jameson Williams back in the lineup, and Jameson Williams slides right back in and he looked pretty good too. Really impressed with Jameson Williams too. Some of the catches that he made, for a slight frame fast receiver, he made some really tough catches upon impact too. So I think another one where he got hit high and low at the same time and still held the ball, like was impressive no matter what receiver would have held that. So to see that out of Jameson Williams, I know we're talking about Sam LaPorta, but this ties into that because nothing's wrong with Sam LaPorta for the most part. This is like very encouraged for your Jameson Williams shares as well. I mean, Detroit's really starting to look into as a powerhouse team.
They're coming together at the right time. They're really improving week in and week out. And
that's my team to win the Super Bowl, man. Which is crazy. Detroit, that's my team. They look really, really good. And the entire offense, the defense still isn't, perfect. I know they signed Zadarius Smith. The secondary has been one of their biggest holes with, Campbell coming on, the linebacker. But even like you see what you see out of Carlton Davis yesterday in the secondary coming up big for them when they needed the most. I think it was the most interception game I've ever seen in my entire life. Like it really was insane. Like how, Goff threw another interception. Oh, CJ Stroud threw another interception. Oh, Goff just threw his fifth interception. Like, dude, what is going on? Literally, the point where it
was 7 total. I mean, five for Goff and 2 for Stroud. So yeah, it was a lot.
Which I would have swore Stroud had 4 too. I would have sworn anything. Like maybe just so abundant because they were fumbling. They were throwing interceptions to his nuts out there. But yeah, Jameson Williams encouraging. Maybe a receiver right now. The fact that he was suspended, you can get him for a second round pick. Possibly,
it's possible. There's some people that'll probably just be happy that he's showing a little bit. There's gun charges kind of dangling out there as well. So you probably can't.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah,
at a discount. So
I feel like he's a solid hold. Like it doesn't get down much more hold. I feel like than Jameson Williams for me because what you would get would to be a second round pick. I was offered this weekend a second and a third for him, which was completely fair.
Yep.
And I still hit decline because I like what I see. Like he's kind of player I'd much rather gamble on him than some random second round pick. Definitely in this upcoming receiving class. So
no doubt about
good week overall. I'm excited. I've been waiting for this show to come along where we can kind of get in and out here in about 17 minutes and say all's good in the NFL going into Monday night. Hopefully this carries over. Definitely as we inch closer and closer to playoffs, man. This is it, man. We got 4 more weeks. And then that's the end of the fantasy football regular season.
Crazy, man.
Which I encourage everybody to go get a Dynasty Nerd, get in that film room. We had a massive update to the film room for your rookies. So we're 500 games in all 22.
Nice, man. Yeah. I can't wait to get into that stuff as well. I mean, for us, that's kind of like we dread it, but we love it at the same time. So.
I love it when it starts.
Yeah.
It just sucks when you got to watch the tape of the doo-doo butt. That's all.
Hey, I agree. All right.
As soon as you watch one game and you're like, man,
I got to watch more. 3 or 4 more of these.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you get through 2, and if you see the exact same thing, you're like, this guy's terrible.
Yeah.
And here's why. Consistency.
Consistability.
We'll be back tomorrow. We're remote tomorrow, right? Kind of like this show. So it'd be
we are. Yep.
A little bit remote. Who knows what time that may be, but I'll be here. We're talking Dynasty Fantasy Football. Go to dynastynerds.com. Check out that film room. Download the app. Leave a rating and review. Stay healthy. God bless America. Talk to you tomorrow.
Adios.